item should be, you don't got to know long, let's have, whatever, 3 or 4 minutes. Be done.
I think I'm gonna be a little, like, probably about 10. But
Okay, Jimmy, that's fine. Absolutely. I just didn't leave this place until 6 o'clock last night.
Yeah, I heard that was a long
Oh my
hearing.
God, Kristen, it's
And it's not over, apparently.
Yikes.
Yikes.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't make any sense. I hope this is the last one. I really do. We need to, and we win and we take action to stop. It's a legitimate question.
I got here too early, so.
Good morning, everyone. Looks like we have a light agenda today, and we don't have a lot of audience participation, so maybe we'll be out of here. Yeah, you never know what will happen, right, Horace? All right, I'd like to hereby call to order the Escambia County Planning Board regular meeting for December 6th. We do have all but one of our board members. Mr. Rushing is out, and we do have a new board member, which we will swear in here in just a moment. But at this time, let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and good morning, everyone. First of all, welcome to Mr. William Van Horn. He has replaced Tim Pyle, and I did speak to Tim, and he asked me to please pass on his thanks, and he really enjoyed being on the board, and nothing against Mr. Van Horn, but obviously we know we lost a strong member who had a lot of knowledge of the board, so you have some big shoes to fill, right?
Definitely understand that.
So, the first thing that we're going to do is go ahead and get you sworn in as a member of the board, and then we have another housekeeping item. Tim was our vice chairman, so we'll need to elect another vice chairman to fill in if I'm out or if I need to pass the gavel for some reason. So, Rachel, would you like to start with the oath for the office, please?
Please raise your right hand. Do you, William Van Horn, do solemnly swear or affirm that you will support, protect, and defend the Constitution and the government of the United States and of the state of Florida, and that you are duly qualified to hold office under the Constitution of the state, and that you will faithfully perform the duties as an Escambia County Planning Board member, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you and welcome. And we'll give you an opportunity to kind of introduce yourself to the other board members and the staff and kind of tell a little bit about your background if you'd like.
All right. I'm William Van Horn. I'm the second. Born and raised here in Escambia County, Warrenton Strong, and actually UWF Argonaut graduate of 11 and 12, and focus on mainly commercial real estate here in Escambia County is mainstay. Land development code's always been something that's interested me, and you always find the nitpicky stuff and all that. I've been in front of Horace a few times on some of those little contentious bits, but it's something that's always interested me, and something that I want to see the better of my community and so forth, and to serve the citizens of Warrenton, of District 2, and ultimately of Escambia County, and to be a good person for this role, hopefully. And I know I'm filling some very big shoes. I think Mr. Powell did a great job in this role, and I look forward for the foreseeable future being here. I look forward to serving with the rest of the board.
Absolutely. Well, welcome to you. And you were right about Horace being a scary guy, for sure. Okay, before we move on, we do have the business of electing a vice chair, because Mr. Pyle, like I said, was the vice chair. So I will entertain motion for a nomination, and we'll see if that person's up for doing it. So, anyone want to make a nomination?
I'd like to nominate Walker.
Okay. Walker, you accept nomination?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Any other nominations? All right, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, welcome to the, to the fun part of the job. All right, we have, like I said, we do have a short, meeting today, but, let's just go through a couple of our, technicalities. First of all, staff, do we have proof of publication?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Chair will entertain a motion to waive the reading of the legal advertisement.
So moved.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We'll come back to our follow-up reports and get an update from the staff at the end of the meeting. Board members, you've been previously provided with a copy of the meeting minutes from the last meeting. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to those meeting minutes? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion to accept as is. Motion, do we have a second? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The planning board hearing package for December 6th has previously been provided to all the board members. The chair will now entertain a motion to accept that hearing package and the legal advertisement into evidence.
So moved.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, we will go directly into our first action discussion info item, which is the UWF Master Plan Update presentation. And I haven't had the pleasure of meeting this gentleman yet, so if you'd please introduce yourself.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Adam Pitts. I'm a project manager at the University of West Florida for the Department of Planning and Facilities Planning and Construction. And I've been helping to facilitate the fruition of this new 2022 UWF Campus Master Plan.
Okay, well, welcome to you. We look forward to hearing what's going on. The university is really growing and becoming an even bigger part of the community.
It sure is. So for this project, UWF partnered with DLR Group. DLR is a design and planning firm with experience from around the world with a great presence in institutional planning. They use their experience to coordinate studies and diagnose a lot of data that this plan is based off of in a way that we definitely would not have been able to do in-house. This plan has been 2 years in the making, and from the beginning has had the goal of creating a plan that is rooted in the needs of the campus to serve as a realistic roadmap for the coming decade. Some of the things we wanted from this plan were for it to align with the strategic direction of the university, guide the physical development of the campus, strengthen relationships both on campus and with the community, and provide real tools for implementation of those goals. To accomplish this, first the plan was grounded on several other plans and studies conducted by the university in recent years, which include the Strategic Master Plan, the Enrollment and Student Success Plan, Landscape Master Plan, Diversity Plan, environmental assessments, and multi-year capital plans. And they tried to really take a look at those plans through the context of current and evolving partnerships and demographic changes. So quickly touching on some of those plans, the Landscape Master Plan, completion of this plan before the Campus Master Plan helped to set the tone for the future strategies regarding like open space and outdoor programming, pedestrian circulation throughout the UWF campus. The Educational Plant Survey, think of this as like an inventory and maybe like a catalog of all of the building space on campus. So every square foot has to be categorized into a different code: classroom, lab, storage, etc. And then this is compared to the number of students that are actually enrolled. And then the state gives us a formula saying you are overbuilt or underbuilt in those different space categories. So that was a huge driving factor in this plan to make sure that what we want to build, we can actually justify to build. We also leaned on the University Parking and Transportation Survey, which was completed back in 2018. This survey identified current and future parking demand and made recommendations to address possible future conditions. A critical part of the plan was to get input from students, faculty, staff, administrators, and community members. Through an extensive engagement strategy, the planning team met with the campus and community throughout the planning process, conducting on-campus and virtual workshops where participants were able to give their input on strengths and weaknesses of the university as they saw them, as well as give feedback on ideas presented for the future of the campus. Through these workshops, a consistent review of findings and outcomes helped us ensure that stakeholder input was not in conflict with the university's goals, policies, objectives, and before integrating, or so that we could ensure that everything was in line before integrating it into this new plan. These workshops were conducted with several key groups, including the university's president's cabinet, which was comprised of senior leadership selected by Dr. Saunders, a steering committee comprised of department heads as well as student campus leaders, a student experience focus group comprised of mostly students that really focusing on like campus life, an academic experience focus group, which was made up of both students and like influential professors on campus, but don't necessarily have like a leadership role. We also encouraged involvement through the Campus Master Plan microsite, which DLR provided us with. There is a ULR that you can see there, uwf-cmp.webflow. You can view the entire plan on that website. Through email blasts and physical flyers, newsletter blurps, the UWF community was encouraged to go to that microsite, view drafts of the plan, give feedback on the plan. They can leave comment, again, on the plan or just things that they like or dislike about the university as a whole. And all of that was able to be collected and digested and put into influence the plan. I will say that our projections for the future were based off of the fall 2019 calendar numbers, that being because of the pandemic. We shut down just like everybody else, so going with like fall 2020 numbers kind of would give us skewed data. So we used that fall 2019 as a starting point to build up all of our predictions off of. And so far, that is holding true. So this table shows what space classifications deficits are likely to occur in the next 5 and 10 years. The large ones, I mean, they're in red. Classrooms, lab, library, which for us isn't so much like library stacking space, it's more study space, and then on-campus housing. And then this is kind of this is the exciting stuff about campus master plans, right? Everybody wants to see the map, the future map, what might be coming. So this is a map of what the campus might look like a decade from now. Each colored shape and little bubble represents a different project proposed by the new 2022 campus master plan. And this is just, again, an overview of that. So with future land use, this map depicts just the East Campus, or roughly about half of the acreage of UWF. UWF is comprised of nearly 1,800 acres, most of which the university is dedicated to remain as conservation area. I don't know how familiar you guys were with the last campus master plan, the 2011 plan. There currently is, in this plan, we have no plan to create a bridge across the bayou to Greenbrier, which I think a lot of people would be happy about. We don't have any plan for development in old growth forests. This plan is really centered on being a realistic approach to what the university can accomplish in the next 10 years. Does that make sense? Moving on from land use to structures, the campus master plan recommends expansions to meet the identified needs for increased academic and student life spaces. The increased capacity is distributed throughout campus in like the focused core campus area. So top priorities on the right there, we have the Student Engagement and Research Center. Undergraduate research is a huge pro to UWF. Usually at large universities, you have to at least be a graduate student before you can do research projects. At UWF, there's an opportunity for undergraduates to do that. That's a huge draw for us. So getting us more research space will help enrollment. Science and engineering research wing. Currently, we have an engineering building, and they are growing rapidly and are justifying a research wing being added to their building. The Darrell Gooden Center addition, which is actually currently underway. That's another one of my projects at UWF. We're putting in a 10,000 square foot addition. We're in the design phase right now, but that will include athletic training on the first floor for our intercollegiate sports. And then FSU School of Medicine of Pensacola will be moving into the second floor of that addition. There's also a need on our campus for central heating and cooling plant. You may or may not be aware, UWF is connected to ECUA, but we actually have our own wells, we treat our own water, we have our own plants, and currently they are at or near capacity. So if we are going to move forward with any of these additions, we will have to increase that capacity. So that's in the plan. And then, of course, I cannot, with no master plan would be complete without mentioning the 12-1 Argos and needing a football stadium. So future open space improvements, moving on from structures. The main entrance to UWF, the president really wants to overhaul. We want to make that a feature of the campus. We want people to know when they enter the campus that they are on UWF. So improving the entrance and the welcome center are kind of a top priority for us right now. We also want to improve the Nautilus/Cannon Green. This is the area right in the heart of campus between the library and the university commons. Right now it's kind of small, constricted, and it gets used all the time, and it just needs to get a little bit bigger and get some upgrades. We want to improve our trailheads. I've only been here for 3 years, and I was at the university for probably a year before I even knew that we had trails on campus. That's how kind of hidden the entrances are to our trails. So improving the entrances to those trails, we feel like would be a big community draw. Tons of people use them already, but it's kind of like a speakeasy. Like you have to know it's there in order to get in. So we just want to bring more recognition to this great asset that we have on campus. And then with the stadium would come something that we're calling Stadium Walk, which is basically a promenade that will connect the stadium to the necessary parking and the rest of campus, really. And you can kind of see that this is Stadium Walk. I don't know, can you guys see my cursor moving around? Yeah, okay. Stadium Walk connecting the football field, which is where it sits right now. We'll get to this in a minute, but this is Argo Boulevard. Currently, there's a parking lot kind of here and a parking lot kind of here, and they are technically connected, but they don't really connect. So we're looking at revamping that and putting in an actual road there, partially to help with game day, partially to help just with circulation day to day, and so that you don't have to drive this whole loop around to get to the majority of classes. It also is hoping to join the North Core campus and the South Core campus. There seems to be just like a disconnect between those two. So we have a goal of improving relationships throughout the campus. So we're hoping that if we are successful in this, then we'll be able to make the campus have a little bit more cohesion instead of being so compartmentalized. Future circulation and parking. Like I just said, there's the Argo Boulevard. We also desperately need to improve campus signage and wayfinding. Like I said, I've been there for 3 years, and starting in the pandemic did not help, but it took me forever to find my way around just because there's this crazy Essing Drive plus a lot of service roads, and if you don't know all of those, it's hard to navigate. So we plan on updating our signage throughout the campus. And just to talk over these again, I don't know how familiar you guys are with the layout of campus, but here's the commons, and the library would be up here. So some of the new structures that we're talking about adding would kind of be in that campus core. So this table is just another way to look at what we plan to do in the next 1 to 5 years that we've kind of already talked about. So you have like the engineering wing and student engagement research center, phase 1 of the football stadium. Something that we haven't talked about yet is demolitions. So those you can see in red. They are an item. Some people, if you're an alumni, you might have stayed in the Southside dorms. We are looking to sadly demolish all of them. Yeah, right. They were deemed uninhabitable in 2017, so now they're kind of just taking up valuable real estate. So they are on the list for demo. Moving on to the 6 to 10 year plan, we see a couple possible additions to maybe the University Commons. The nursing program, not just for us, but nationwide, is blowing up. I hear reports that we literally have some classes doing nursing things in the hallways over Gurney's. So we're looking to expand our nursing program with an addition. We're hoping to move that up in the timeline, but currently, again, due to our Board of Governors strategic master plan, or strategic, what am I saying? Yeah, strategic plan. They're saying that it's looking more like 6 years out, but we're trying to up that a little bit just because of need. I'm almost done, I promise. 10 plus years out, we're hoping to do phase 2 to a stadium, possibly a new dorm. Dorms are currently between like 95, 98% capacity, and private sector keeps building a bunch right outside of our gate, so it kind of makes sense to try to capitalize on that ourselves a little bit. And this is just kind of an overview of the campus itself. So to recap, we have our grand entrance that we kind of want to revamp. We have Argo Boulevard and the stadium walk leading to the new stadium. A few new buildings to help with academia, possibly a addition to commons, nursing. They also have this plan of expansion of the green. So currently the green is literally just right here in between the library and the commons, but we'd like to expand that and kind of bring a lot of continuity from this kind of north area of campus south into South Campus. At this time, does anyone have any questions?
I do. First of all, thank you. Great update. I know as the university continues to grow, and especially with now having a football stadium on site, I've heard a lot of talk about walkability and the availability for the students and people coming to go to football games, that it's kind of far to get to any kind of stores or shops or anything like that. So this is kind of a dual purpose question maybe for you and for the county. Are we considering any kind of master plan for this entire area? Because, you know, when you go to somewhere like FSU or UF, you're kind of right in the heart of everything, and it's easy for the students who don't even really need a vehicle to get around and do things. Here, I mean, you can do it, but you almost need a vehicle to be able to get to things. So is there a plan for that? Both, that's a dual question for Horace and for you on the university side, so.
Horace, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, and he can add on, and so can Drew. That has not been discussed as far as doing a master plan for that area, for off-campus and for the students and for pedestrians. But that has not been discussed. Now, if they're not from our part, now may have had some internal discussion with UWF on their side. That has not been discussed with the county at this time.
Yeah, so as far as you're talking about like shopping districts and stuff on campus, it sounds like.
Restaurants, shopping, you know, places for people to go before and after the games and things like that. Because right now it's definitely a drivable campus is
Yeah.
basically the only.
Yeah,
I mean, you could walk up to the public shopping center on the corner, but that's a pretty good
it's a hike.
hike.
Yeah, and part of that is that the campus it's like its own little island. It's kind of remote back there. I will say that there are talks about like the new dorm having some sort of retail component possibly to the first floor, like you see in a lot of urban stuff now. It's like residential high and commercial low. Same with if you can see, there's like these blue buildings kind of by the stadium are we're labeling them innovation hubs, but they could be the same thing. And honestly, it's a good point. It would make sense to have some sort of retail or eating venue close to the stadium. I think a big challenge for us has been we are not like UF or FSU where they have tens of thousands and thousands of students and professors and staff that are there all the time to help justify the cost of investing in something on campus. But I mean, nothing's impossible, so we can have those talks in the future.
So Horace, from the standpoint of if they were to build some type of retail or restaurant facility that would be open to students and to the public, is that problematic with the zoning or the master plan for the university?
Talking about on campus?
Yeah.
No, it would not, because see, basically, with the public zoning, that would not be, an issue. They would have to probably have controls for on their side on, as far as their protocols in place, but as far as our purposes, it would not be an issue.
Yeah. Currently, our kind of workaround is we have our trolley that allows students and faculty to go off campus and get to like that Target Publix shopping center or various vendors that are close to campus. Because you're right, it is a hike to go down to what is that University Parkway. But yeah, it's just been a challenge to get vendors interested in being on campus.
I mean, I don't have to tell you this, but I foresee this place just continuing to boom. It's kind of, you know, for many years it was kind of a little hidden secret, but now the world knows about UWF. And, you know, I was talking to a student the other day that moved here from up in Indiana just intentionally to come to college here. So I think would be one of my recommendations as a true planning tool, is that there's going to have to be more restaurants, shops, things like that closer to the campus or even on the campus as you go forward, so.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Adams.
Yeah, I was gonna tell you, 3 kids FSU, and I never ate anywhere around that stadium, going to all the games as a booster member and everything. You had to get off that campus. I doubt you could even walk to College Town. It'd be a pretty good hike from that stadium to FSU there. So it's not like University of Florida where it's kind of mixed in with the
Right.
town. So, but it works. I mean, most people try to go out, go to the restaurants and stuff. So, their problem would be if they built a restaurant or something on that campus near that football stadium, nothing's going on unless the football game's there or some big sporting event. So it would not make sense economically for them, I do not believe.
Yeah, like I said, that's been the challenge so far, and will probably prove to be the challenge going forward of just trying to find a retailer to invest in what could be big returns for you 8 days a year, but the rest of the time, maybe not.
Right.
And Mr. Briscoe, you did mention, if there is a desire to have a master plan for on campus and off campus, of course, there will have to be a very, very collaborative effort from UWF as well as from our Board of County Commissioners and from the whole area, so that it is, because it is. I went to UWF, and back then it wasn't as advanced as it is now. I'm not that old either, but it's different. It's different now, and it's growing. So perhaps maybe that it would be a time to begin to think about. But it's going to require an initiation from UWF and probably with the direction from the Board of County Commissioners to see how that want to be handled in the near future.
Yep. Mr. Fears?
I was going to piggyback on that and ask what you discovered about your residency trajectory. I see South Side is coming down, has been down, I guess,
Yeah.
unpopulated. I think I caught that the new one is 250 beds.
Yes, sir.
So what is the current trajectory of residency on campus versus the current climate is that kids are living in town, they're remoting a lot, things like that?
Yeah, so I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but this was a really interesting part of the study. When I went to college, which was, oh my gosh, a while ago, and probably when a lot of you guys went to college, living in a dorm, you kind of expected to have, let me put it this way, kids now really want the apartment style living, which UWF has some of, but not a whole lot. So we actually have a wait list of students that have been accepted into housing. We have a bed for them, but they are choosing to live off campus, waiting for the on-campus apartment housing. Does that make sense? So that's kind of where they're trying to, or that's where we're projecting those new beds going. that
Are you
kind of
saying
style of
you have
housing.
vacant dormitory space, but there's a wait list for the apartment spaces?
There are students that actually literally have a bed on campus, but that will live off campus. It's a very, very small percentage. Like
Understood.
that would be insanely expensive, right? But that does exist. So to try to cater to that and at the same time give us more capacity for housing on campus, because like I said, we're at 95, 98% consistently every semester. We feel like we need to up that number a little bit. We are projecting a 10% growth over 10 years, and that 250 beds is about a 10% growth in our housing.
Thank you.
What is the current student population?
I do not know. On campus and off, like online, I believe it's 16,000.
Okay. Going back to what, they were talking about, and when I was there, it was mainly a car-driven campus. I love to see that every plan I've seen with this program, or every master plan, and oddly enough, the last day I was at UWF, they were presenting in 2012 that plan. And I have to also have to question is how much of that plan was ever went to fruition. But for funding and such for like the parking garages, that's still mainly from the campus parking fines and, because I remember they couldn't get funding from the state for parking facilities. So are they addressing that or do they have a plan for that?
Yeah, so what was your first question? I'm sorry.
Really going towards, it's still a car-driven campus, I guess. more or less,
Yeah,
and-
so when DLR is this big company, right? Like they do stuff all over the world, and they were surprised that we were such a commuter campus, car campus, and they were asking, and a lot of the comments coming from students were that there's not enough parking. Well, the parking study that we did shows that there's plenty of parking. Even our busiest parking lots are only at like 85% capacity on any given day. So we have plenty of parking. It's just not necessarily it's not necessarily right next to the building that you
Oh, no,
want
some
to
of
be
it's
in.
significantly.
Some
on
of
the
it
side.
is significantly far. It's like out. Some of it's by like the
It's about a
baseball
half-mile walk
fields and
from
stuff.
edge to edge, I think.
Yeah,
I
but-
used to check it, so.
But then a lot of it, like up by like on the north end up here, by the science buildings, a lot of this, I have no problem finding a really close parking spot to the science buildings in here every single day. Because I have a project in those buildings right now.
Those are lab buildings, correct?
Correct. Yeah, so all of these are science buildings. So I guess to get at the point is that this plan is trying to create more continuity throughout the campus to make it more of a walk-in campus. When you go onto some of the larger universities, it's expected that you're going to park and you're going to get out and you're going to walk from a parking deck or a parking lot to your classes. And I think that's just going to be a mental shift in our population.
Well, with the projects that they have on hand, it's just they're taking up parking lot space on at least 2 of those, I think I see right there off the top of my head from memory. And-
You're probably looking at right
Yeah.
here and right
I'm looking
here.
out in front of the engineering building and such, and also I think in front of where the conference area would be.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also obviously where the parking garage is, also, I think a few other things where Argo Boulevard is, eats up a almost whole other parking lot. Seeing all those go is kind of with, being
Yeah.
a resident there, not a resident, but a student there back then, I know that parking was always one thing you always worried about getting a fine and from illegal parking.
Yeah.
But to see, there's a lot of grand plans in terms of, more space and more square footage. That means more people, et cetera, especially game days. How does that flow with this entire project in terms of, getting them out there? How many net spaces are you actually gaining in the end?
I again don't have those numbers right in front of me, but in terms of game day and even just during the week, with phase 2 of the stadium is supposed to come that parking garage, and with phase 2 of the stadium, that's kind of when a lot of these changes in terms of getting rid of parking lots is supposed to happen. So all of that will kind of transition congruently. In addition to that, I know that there have been talks with like campus transportation to try to increase trolleys out to those farther parking lots. And honestly, through this study with the focus groups, there were even comments about parking being expensive. So if we can offer a cheaper parking pass for those outlier lots, but you might have to take in a trolley, there might be a draw for that too.
I could see that being something that, from my experience up there. But I just feel like, you're adding a lot and then taking away a lot at the same time. It goes back to what he was talking about. It's a walkability campus, and I know when they had the 2011 master plan, they were looking for private-public partnership to develop a lot of the buildings up there. I don't think they maybe got 1 or 2 bids on several things.
Yeah.
It's going back a while on my memory on those.
It was that was a very bold plan, and there were basically no takers.
I was critical of it back then. I said that you have a lot of wishes here that no one's really gonna.
Yeah,
Go after.
yeah. It was super, super cool. Don't get me wrong. It was like a really cool plan, but the focus of this plan was what are our needs, what can we realistically hope to accomplish in the next decade plus, and how do we make this campus feel more continuous instead of compartmentalized. So this is working with the structures that we have that are already in place. This is kind of what we were able to come up with.
I do have a question for you. And I know that Mr. Brisky, many of you probably remember, you know, when Navy Federal started growing, which I'm glad that they are growing, many of the surrounding people who lived out there, they start having some concerns about the growth of it outside of their campus. And I said that there was some public engagement with those adjacent and surrounding communities. How was your input with them when you met with those?
Most of the outside entities that we talked to were happy that we were rescinding our bid to do that bridge across the Greenbrier. That was a hugely controversial thing. So honestly, this plan has been mostly positive. I will say we went back to, where is it? So these are survey results, and our official surveys from our microsite. We only had 24 come back from a local community, which was kind of disappointing. But of those, it was overwhelmingly positive.
All right, board members, other questions, comments? Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Pitts, anything else you'd like to add?
No, sir.
Thank you for coming in. Sounds exciting. We look forward to seeing it all happen. So good luck with it. Thank you. Okay, we will now move into, we'll hold public forum and director's review because I know we have a presentation from Ms. Buell, our county attorney representative. Good morning.
Good morning.
And you'll be giving us a presentation on sunshine law and other things. So,
Yes.
all right, you have the floor.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kristen Hewell, the Deputy County Attorney. You should have a handout. It's just a very, very general overview of both the Sunshine Law and the Public Records Act. And I'm not going to follow it page by page, but I'll start with the Sunshine Law. The purpose of the Sunshine Law is to provide the public with a right of access to all governmental proceedings. The meetings of this board are considered governmental proceedings because you have been delegated certain decision-making authority to act on behalf of the Board of County Commissioners. The law has 3 requirements. All meetings must be open to the public. There must be reasonable notice of the meeting, and minutes of all meetings must be taken, and those minutes then become a public record. A meeting is any interaction, whether formal or casual, of 2 or more members of the same board to discuss a matter upon which foreseeable action may be taken by the board at a future meeting. There are exceptions to the law. The law does not apply to your interactions with staff, so you may communicate with your staff liaison concerning board matters unless a staff member has been delegated some decision-making authority, which would be an unusual circumstance. The law also does not apply to any subset of this board who may be designated as an advisory body to go out and perform fact-finding. Again, for your purposes, that would be a rare circumstance. Yes?
What about non-voting members of the board?
The Sunshine Law does apply to non-voting members as well, correct. Another exception would be a written opinion statement. You, as a board member, between public meetings, if you wish, may issue a statement to your fellow board members that I would recommend be distributed by your staff liaison. And that would not constitute a violation provided that there is no interaction back and forth between board members unless or until you come to your public meeting. And at that next meeting, your position statement would then become a part of the record, a public record, and would be in the minutes. The law also does not preclude any social interaction. So you may, between board meetings, of course, discuss sports and Johnny's baseball game and the weather and the upcoming holidays. All of that is fair game. It only pertains to your discussions about board business, essentially. A knowing violation of the law is a second-degree misdemeanor, and if convicted, you may be sentenced to jail and/or fined. You may also be suspended from office. There is also a violation for an inadvertent violation, which is a non-criminal infraction, and you may be fined up to $500. If a violation occurs, then the board must take independent final action at a public meeting to cure the violation. Otherwise, the action taken is invalid. And even if the board as a whole cures the violation, that doesn't necessarily shield the violator who may have taken action or discussed board business outside of a public meeting. So if you do not know whether or not your interaction with a fellow board member may be subject to the Sunshine Law, then I would recommend that you leave or be certain that the meeting has been properly noticed, that there are no barriers to public access, and that there are minutes taken. Moving on to the Public Records Act. The purpose of the Public Records Act is to provide a right of access to all public records. And that includes the records of a state or local government, as well as any private entities who may be working on their behalf. The Public Records Act broadly defines a public record to include any and all documents or other material, regardless of physical form, characteristics, or means of transmission, that may be made or received pursuant to law or ordinance, or in connection with the transaction of official business. The Florida Supreme Court has interpreted this definition to encompass all materials made or received by an agency in connection with official business which are used to perpetuate, communicate, or formalize knowledge. So personal notes that you may take for your own purposes are not considered a public record. So you don't need to be concerned about that. And they're not public because they're not used to communicate knowledge with another person. Anything else that you may make or receive that involves board business, your participation on the planning board, is a public record, and I would recommend that you forward a copy of anything of that nature to your staff liaison. And the staff liaison may serve as your custodian. And I will also add that text messages and emails are certainly public records. So if you ever receive a text message, or you send a text message, the best way to preserve that, since you probably would be doing that on your personal phones, is to screenshot it and then email it to your staff liaison. A knowing violation of the Public Records Act is a first-degree misdemeanor. If you're convicted, you may be sentenced up to a year in prison or $1,000 as a fine, or both. And that is a very general overview of the Sunshine Law and the Public Records Act. If you, do you have any questions?
I do have one, and I've seen this over the years and just want to get clarity for everybody here. Once a case, let's talk first quasi judicial. Once a case has been heard and the meeting is over, is it still improper for board members to discuss that case with each other outside of this room?
The law technically applies to matters that may come before the board at a future meeting. However, I would caution against that because you never know when something may come back to the
Right.
board. So anything that pertains to board business, I would discourage discussing off the record.
Yeah, and that was my main point, is that maybe some of the new board members may not realize that sometimes when we send it to the commissioners, they turn around and say, no, we want you to take another look at this, and they remand it back to us. And so, of course, we could be in violation if we discuss it in that interim time. So just be careful of that. We have county emails, which I would highly encourage that you use, because otherwise your personal email becomes discoverable. And
Yes.
so
You don't want to
wanna
intermingle.
do that, so use your county email and,
And when you receive an email from your staff liaison, I'm sure that they blind copy, but if you ever see your other board members on the thread, please do not reply all. That's an easy way to commit a violation, so just be careful.
okay. Other questions from anyone? Okay.
If you ever have any concerns between meetings, questions, or, if you may have a concern about a potential conflict of interest or anything of that nature, you can always contact our office.
Okay. Very good, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I did have a
Yes,
question,
sir.
I'm sorry. So does this apply across other, say, other boards that are part of the county, like, say, the planning board and the school board or some other?
No,
Okay.
it applies to your interactions with your fellow board members on this
Okay.
board about this board's business.
Understood, thank you.
Very good, good question. Anything else? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we don't have any members of the public here, other than Mr. Pitts, and I think he's already done his, so, no public forum. Rachel, do you have any updates, as far as, 6-month outlook or follow-up or anything like that, since Horace is out?
Yeah. I would just say January's tentative. I'm waiting. As far as I've been told, we're still waiting on paperwork for several cases, so January may be a wash. I'll let you all know by the end of the month. The only other thing that's kind of come up, I sent everybody the calendar for 2023 except William. I don't think I've sent you one yet. The July meeting, there is tentatively the budget meeting workshop, because the first Tuesday of July is July 4th. That second Tuesday is the budget meeting. That next Tuesday is building services meeting. So we may have to be a little more flexible of maybe doing a Wednesday or a Thursday. Thinking of the 4th of July week. So I'll try to send you guys an email early June to see what y'all's 4th of July schedule's looking like. And I would really like to maybe look at Wednesday or Thursday, because there's a lot going on. But other
Okay.
than that, your schedule for the year is the first Tuesday unless there's a holiday. I just went ahead and pushed it to the next Tuesday so we don't have to jeopardize a quorum.
Okay. And you may or may not know this, I always ask Horace this, but, was there any cases where the commissioners overturned the recommendation of the planning board?
Not that I had noticed when I made the follow-up for the previous month. I will say the last 3 cases that were on November is coming this Thursday. And I'm still waiting on one of the opt-outs that we did. I think there's something going on with DEO, which is why it hasn't gone to final adoption. But other
Okay.
than the BCC, they haven't overturned anything that I'm aware of.
We'd just like to know when we submit something, because the commissioners obviously have the final decision, and it's very rare, but occasionally they will make a different decision than we've recommended, and we just like to know the feedback on that so we can understand what they were thinking and how it went, so. Okay, anything else? Okay. Well, if there's no other business for the board, then we will be adjourned. Our next meeting will be January 10th. You just heard Rachel talking about that. So you'll send out emails, and please respond and let her know if you're gonna be here or if you're gonna be absent. So, all right. Thank you so much. Have a great one.
Anybody?